Hey YouTubers, this is Scott the Fix-It Guy. Today we have a gas dryer that is not drying very well. It gets the clothes somewhat dry but not dry enough. So it's probably these gas coils right here that we need to replace for only about, I think, 25 bucks or less. Here's the part number here, but we will put a link in the description below to help out. But it's a very common problem that a lot of gas dryers have, where after about 4 or 5 years of use, they just don't allow the flame to stay active long enough to really dry the clothes. But by replacing these gas solenoids or gas valves, you get your dryer working really good again. So to replace it, we unplugged it, we pulled the filter out, and now we're going to remove these two Phillips head screws. They were underneath where the filter was pulled out. We have to get these out first before we can lift up on the top panel. So we got those two out. We're going to use a paint scraper to push in on two plastic spring clips. First of all, make sure we have it unplugged. And these two spring clips are holding on the front of the top panel. I'm going to push in with the paint scraper about 3 inches in from each corner. And now I'm going to lift up the top. It just hinges. Make sure it's not going to come falling down on your fingers. I'm going to disconnect this little white modular connector by prying it apart. I'll remove these two screws here at the top left and top right, because I want to remove the front panel. And after taking those two screws, I'll be able to lift up on the front panel, and the bottom right and bottom left corner will come free of two clips. But to get them free, I have to lift up maybe on one corner at a time, and I can get the front panel off of the two clips and get it out of the way. So there's the one clip, just let go on the left, and here's the one on the right. So I got the front panel off, we get that out of the way. That's going to give me really good access to get to the gas coil assembly. A couple ways you can do it. One is you can just leave the drum in position and you can kind of wedge it up with something to get it out of the way. You can remove these two wire modular connectors and just pull them right off the gas coil. And there's just one Phillips head screw that you have to remove to get the gas coils off. But you may find that you don't have a way to get there. This angle tool that I have hooked up to my driver could do the trick, or you could pull the belt off and get the drum out, and then it's easier to get to this one screw. So you can just pull off these modular connectors, and right where my index finger is pointing, right here in between the two gas coils, there's a little Phillips head screw, and just pull that out lefty-loosey, and you can lift off the old coil assembly. And then the new one just slides right over these two silver metal posts that we can see right in the middle of the two gas coils. So the whole assembly just slides on there. And then you just put your Phillips head screw back into position, and you just tighten it up with Phillips head screwdriver. Probably rather than a regular size Phillips screwdriver, a smaller head, like they call a Phillips 1 instead of a Phillips 2, would probably fit that screw better. Get that really tight, and then you can go ahead and put the modular connectors back on. One of these has 2 holes, it goes to the right, and the other one has 3 holes, and that goes on the left side coil. So now we got those on. We're going to put the drum back in. We're going to put this tensioner in these 2 little slots. It just helps to keep nice good spring tension on the belt. So we get that in position, and we can put the drum or tumbler back in. We'll slide it in, and then we can get the belt back in position, and then we're gonna go down. I just lay on my back usually so I can see better, and I'm gonna pull it up over the white idler wheel, and then I'll take the belt and loop it over the small motor pulley. And then it's good to grab the whole drum and just turn it a couple of times to make sure that it's not going to come off of the belt, or the belt won't come off of the pulley. So I'm going to put the bottom part of this front panel onto the clip on the right and the clip on the left. And I'm going to have the drum sit on this felt bushing that's on the front panel. So I have to put that on the bushing. I have to lift up a little bit so that the bottom right and bottom left corners can slip down onto those clips. So I have to lift up a little bit, push in, let it slip down. And now the bottom is secure. To get the top secure, I'm going to put these screws in. These are the ones I removed before. I'm going to put them in by hand. And then once I have them, I'll get them nice and tight with my driver. And with these new gas coils, you'll get a flame lit up that'll last for about 3 to 3.5 minutes. And that's a really good flame duration that'll give you a lot of good heat, and your dryer's going to dry a lot better. So I'm just going to get that screw on the left here a little tighter. I get the one on the right, and then I can just hinge the top panel back down. I can push down and it'll just lock into position. I'm just going to hinge that down, push down so it locks in on the front clips. Then I have to add 2 Phillips head screws. Be careful at this point that you don't accidentally drop the Phillips head screw down into this area where the filter goes, because it'll rub against the blower fan. You don't want that. So we're getting those in by hand. Tighten them up with a Phillips head screwdriver. That done. I'm going to slip the filter back in there, and then we'll test it out. There we go. So I'll plug it back in, get it all set. I'm going to set it for sensor dry. I'll make sure it's not on air fluff. I make sure it's on the high temperature. I'm going to pry off this little inspection plastic piece down here. I'm going to just use a knife or a screwdriver, pry it off. And then when you press start, you want to look in there. You'll see it glow orange like we see on the camera. And then you should see a flame start, a big flame inside the burner tube. And that should last again 3 to 3.5 minutes. And that means your gas coils are working really well. If you check this and you see that the flame goes out before that, it could be due to a blockage in your dryer vent. So that's a nice looking flame. But if you notice it goes out too early, you may want to go out behind the house where the dryer vent tube leaves the house and make sure there's nothing caught in there that's preventing the airflow. The airflow should feel strong at this point. It should feel about the volume of a hair dryer, and it should be nice and hot. And then if you're just out there in the back testing it, you should feel the hot air lasting for 3 to 3.5 minutes. Once the dryer warms up though, these flame duration times will probably get shorter. But when the dryer is stone cold and you first start it, you should get in a healthy dryer 3 to 3.5 minutes. If you don't, the gas coils may need replacing, or you may need to clean out your dryer vent tube, because if the vent tube is clogged, the dryer will cut its heat prematurely. And that'll also cause your clothes to not dry very well. So we're doing good though. We're getting about 3 minutes and 15 seconds. So that's a good heat duration, and that's a sign of a healthy dryer. There's our little flame in there. It's looking good. Just want to put that little plastic piece back in when you're done. We did notice though, as we were doing this test, that there was some extra noise going on. So we got it unplugged. We're going to kind of open up the top. And when I looked in, I noticed that this felt seal on the back of the dryer was folded in, and it's not supposed to be. So you can just reach in with something and you can pull that seal out so it's nice and flat. That's called the rear bearing, against the rear bearing. That looked good. And then I spun the drum to make sure the seal wasn't pinched in at any other point. Then when I put it back together and I started it, it ran really smooth. Before that, I heard kind of a clunk, 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 which shouldn't be. So I plugged it in, gave it a little test, and it was nice and smooth, back to normal. So then it was okay to just reassemble it. So when you're doing your flame test to see if your dryer is staying on long enough, make sure you're not on air fluff, and make sure that you're on the time dry and your temperature is set to the highest temperature. And then again, you want that flame to go for between 3 to 3.5 minutes, and then you're doing great. So this dryer now is working perfect, back to good health. Watching our video, and please subscribe to our channel when you get a chance, and also click the little bell notification button so we can send you weekly videos on all the different ways of fixing appliances around your home and saving you lots of money. So thanks again for watching, and please also press the like button for our video if this was helpful to you.